Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. I have a super cool looking figure here to review today, and if you are a fan of vintage dinosaur figures, you will absolutely love this figure we have in front of us here. This is the Tsukuda Hobbies Brontosaurus. This is a very old figure. I'm not entirely sure when it was made. I guess you could also consider it an Apatosaurus, because this is when we still called Apatosaurus the Brontosaurus. So it is either one of those, but you can see the tail on the ground, the overall appearance being very large and very lizard-like, and just kind of the dopey face that we have on our dinosaur. It is clearly a vintage, old-school Brontosaurus figure, and this is a very long discontinued figure, but I was really excited to find one recently on eBay. It was up for auction, and I ended up winning this for like 18 bucks, which is a steal if you know the value of these figures, so I was pretty psyched about it, and I thought, why not get it up here and review it here on the channel for you guys, as I know there are a lot of people here on the channel that are fans of vintage dinosaurs. So, without further ado, let's get a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see the head sculpt for the most part looks pretty good. There's not too much detail or anything on it. It really doesn't have any type of scaling or not much as far as skin texture at all. And you can also see that there are quite a few areas that kind of have some paint taken off of it, but considering the age of the figure and how much abuse it's probably received throughout its life, it's kind of to be expected to have some paint damage on a figure like this. But you can see that as far as representing the old school vintage style Brontosaurus, this is an absolutely perfect head sculpt. This is exactly the type of dinosaur I would expect to have seen in books as a child, kind of lurking in a lake or a swamp or something, because they always portrayed them like that, being too heavy to really move well on land, saying that they used to live in the water where they can move around a little bit better and hide from predators if one happened to come by. So this is exactly the sculpt that I would expect to see on one of those type of books and portraying what a Brontosaurus looked like back in the day. You can see that the eyes are actually given like that plastic, sort of a glass eye effect, which does help to give the figure a really cool appearance. I really do love that. You've got the nostrils sculpted out up here. Of course, we know that this Brontosaurus would have been in the water, and to hide from predators, he would have been submerged to about here to just leave his nostrils out so he could breathe, or so many books told me as a child. As we start to lead down the neck, you can see lots of creasing in the neck as far as the skin texture goes. You can also see kind of like a light blue that starts to appear. The dinosaur primarily is like a very dark blue, but then there's also areas of like this light blue that kind of creep in, and then it does turn to like a whitish coloration here on the underside. You can also see how nice the detailing is here in the neck on the underside of the figure as well. Lots of really beautiful creasing in the skin there as well. The very nice detailing continues as we move down into the shoulder area of the dinosaur. You can actually right here, you can kind of see some like musculature here in the neck that looks really cool. The head is on a swivel, so you can turn it there. I did want to make that known because you probably have already picked up on the fact that there is a seam right here and it's very visible, but that is because the neck articulates right there. You can see the shoulder blade is quite nicely present. As far as the sculpting goes, the spinal column is as well, really nicely elaborated up there at the top of the animal. You've got lots of skin wrinkling going on pretty much all over this area. You've got it all over the place. Really beautiful movement shown actually throughout the sculpt of the shoulder area and the front top of the leg. You can see the seam again. Now the legs are not articulated right here where you can kind of see that seam. You can see I can't turn it, but they are articulated down here. So once you get to the elbow area of the front leg, you would see that seam right there, and that is due to the articulation. As you move down into the foot, you can see the foot sculpt looks really cool, really beautifully old school as far as a Brontosaurus would have been portrayed. You've got kind of like almost like a dark green right here, which really looks cool. Again, you can see like that light blue, and now you have like the darker areas kind of highlighted here and there, giving it some really nice color variation. As we move up into the stomach, you can see lots of skin creasing going on, lots of very nice skin texture. Again, we don't really see too much as far as scaling go on the figure, but I think the skin texture that is included actually looks really cool. Nice hip bone elaborated from the skin there. Beautiful muscle tone as we move down into this very large leg. Once again, you can see the seam here where the leg is connected, but again, the leg is only articulated down here, although mine's really stiff and does not want to move. Nice creasing right here at the joint of the rear leg. beautiful foot sculpt back there as well. It doesn't really look like the toenails are painted like any particular way, other than maybe they've given it like a quick spray of like some white coloration over the nails to sort of appear as though they're painted. As we move back into the tail, again, the tail is huge, and you can see the spinal column run the entire length of the tail. Very nice, very thick tail with some more nice creasing in the skin. The skin texture looks pretty good as we run out the length of the tail. The tail itself isn't super long, but it's very thick, and again, exactly what I would have seen in a book as a child. Looking at the opposing side, you can again see the really beautiful Brontosaurus head sculpt, or I guess I should just call it an Apatosaurus, but at the time that this was made, they would have called it a Brontosaurus. But you can see the head sculpt looks really cool, nice hanging skin in the throat, which is something that I also used to see associated with this species a lot when I were looking at books as a child. The detailing in the neck looks really good on this side, just like it did on the opposing side. Again, not really too much as far as scaling or anything goes, but really nice creasing in the skin the whole way down. The body primarily is almost in a neutral position when it comes to the legs, except this leg is more forward than the opposing leg. And you can see again lots of really nice movement as far as the creasing and the skin folding and everything going on here in this leg. We again have articulation in the front leg, but it's actually really stiff. This figure is extremely stiff as far as the joints go, and I don't really intend on moving them around too much. I just kind of wanted to show you that they are articulated. Nice foot sculpt again over here, nicely sculpted out nails. I do want to state that the area where the leg was connected over here as far as the seam is much better on this side than it was on the previous side as far as hiding the seam. Really nice detailing throughout the stomach region. As we move up here into the hip area of the dinosaur, you can again make out the hip and shoulder blade in the skin there as far as being elaborated. Nice skin detail as we move down the thigh into the rear leg. Nice foot sculpt once again here on the bottom. This leg is really stiff, does not want to move at all, but I don't think this figure has really been messed with too much in a while. You can see some pretty significant paint damage right there, which is unfortunate, but considering the price I paid, I'm okay with it. As we move back into the tail, again, the skin texture looks really nice. Very large, very thick tail as we move out to the tip of the tail, and the underside also sports some really nice sculpt work, so it's probably not nearly as nice as what we would see now if someone made a vintage dinosaur line, but honestly, I absolutely love this figure. As far as a size goes, now the figure is actually pretty big. You can see it in my hands there, so we're going to have to move the head out of frame to get the entire length over here to the tail to show you. So from the head to the tail, you're looking at about 19¼ inches or around 49 centimeters in length, and for a height, the highest point clearly is going to be the head, about 7¼ inches or about 18½, almost 19 centimeters for a size comparison. There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon next to our very large lumbering sauropod here, and you can definitely see next to these figures that it does have some pretty darn significant size to it. Another one of the very cool redeeming factors of the figure. I love that it's very large, and next to these figures, especially the Papo Rex, you can definitely see that. So this Tsukuda Hobbies Brontosaurus is absolutely awesome. I love this figure. Really psyched with this purchase. I actually never really paid too much attention to these figures. I always liked the Jurassic Park figures from Tsukuda Hobbies, but never really paid too much attention to these other ones. Now, I know there are actually a few other figures in this line. I think they have a Stegosaurus, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, maybe a Triceratops. I don't remember exactly. I think I might have actually seen a few others, but I know that I never really paid too much attention to them. It was kind of something that was like pushed into the back of my mind, that maybe one day I'll get a hold of trying to collect them, maybe start trying to buy them, but now I actually have this one. I really do want to get a hold of the others, and I am in love with this figure specifically. A few days ago when I was just kind of browsing eBay and this listing popped up, it immediately caught my eye because it has a very similar appearance to the old Horizon vintage Brontosaurus, and I am a huge fan of that figure as well. So when I saw this, I was just immediately sold and placed a bid instantly on the figure, and to my surprise and happiness, I did in fact win the figure, and I am so psyched now to have this here in my collection. Again, looking like the perfect example of a vintage Brontosaurus that I would have seen in not only a book, but even in movies as a child, it's very, very similar to pretty much every Brontosaurus or Apatosaurus that I had seen in anything when I was a young child. So it really has a soft spot in my heart for the entire look of the figure, but this one specifically is just like an absolutely perfect example of that type of a dinosaur. The overall sculpt is really nicely done for the most part. There's not that great of sculpt as far as the minute detailing goes, but the way they've sculpted out a lot of creasing in the skin and the overall skin texture, I think definitely looks good enough. It's definitely not bad, that's for sure. It could have been better if it were sculpted nowadays, but as far as when this was sculpted, honestly, I think it looks really, really good. The paint job as well is fairly nicely done. Nice dark tones, exactly what you would have seen associated with gigantic sauropods back in the day. So I feel like they did a great job of representing the coloration that would have been expected on a figure like this, on a dinosaur like this. For its time, I think they did a really good job on the paint, and the paint actually does look quite nice, really natural all over the figure as well. The application of it does look like body color and not just paint on a figure. And then you of course have the addition of like those plastic sort of glass eyes up there on the face, and I think that that's always a really cool thing to have on a figure. Does help to make the realism of the figure jump up a few notches, but just in general helps it to look a lot nicer as far as I'm concerned. So I will include a link in the description to somewhere on eBay, the cheapest one that I can find for you guys, where if you want to pick this up, you can in fact do just that. So make sure you check the description, and also make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.